Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, yWhales. My name is Siva Avvaru, managing partner of yWhales Solutions, and I'm joined by our fellow co-host, Abe Micael, head of ecosystem for yWhales.
Hello, hello.
We have a great episode for you guys today. We're going to dive into the world of gaming. We have an interesting company here, a B2B game company, a technology company, and we're joined by CEO of GameOn, Matt Bailey. Matt, great to talk to you.
Hey everyone, it's good to be here.
So how did you get into gaming, man?
I got into gaming about 5 years ago, more so on the sports gaming side of things. So fantasy games, predictor games, trivia games. So we're not building AAA games or even AA games. We're building games that are dependent on content. And first of all, I got into that content. So I've always been into sports. Grew up in Australia playing and loving rugby. Went to school for sports business. After that, worked in various sports business roles for broadcasters, for the Brooklyn Nets and Barclays Center here in the US, also the Harlem Globetrotters, and various different business roles. So first and foremost, I got into a love of sports, and I always found that if I was invested in some way, it could be on the sports betting side, which is now very much illegal across the US, but even just on the gaming side of predicting and playing fantasy, it just gets you so much more invested in the games. Either be it with your friends and drafting ahead of the NFL season, drafting a team, or playing an office pool with your colleagues. It's always intrigued me, and it's been a love of mine. So that's why we started GameOn about 5 years ago, and we've evolved since then. But that's kind of how I first got into it.
Man, I feel like you're living my dream. I'm a huge fantasy sports guy. Fantasy baseball, I'm religious in it. Fantasy football, I think every U.S. male that's a millennial at some point has done fantasy football. It's almost a religion at this point.
You're hardcore if you're playing fantasy baseball. So that's like that's for the true fantasy guys.
It's all analytics. That's all it is. It's all data, and maybe that's why I enjoy it. But so how does that? And that's an interesting way to approach this. GameOn as a B2B gaming technology company, and the intersection of fantasy sports, as you had mentioned. I don't think a lot of people really realize a lot of the capabilities that are starting to evolve in the fantasy sports section. I think a majority of the general public just views fantasy sports as a browser-based, pick a player and choose them on your team, and hopefully you win depending on the model and on the sports model that you're competing within. So where did you find that opportunity, or how did you discover that opportunity that there is a potential here to enhance or expand on the fantasy sporting experience, and how is GameOn achieving that?
Yeah, so the opportunity we found is that there's a shift in how Gen Z and millennials are consuming sports. Now, I think our generation is probably the last to sit down and watch a 3.5 hour game of football, and I'll do it. I'll watch multiple. On a Sunday, I'll sit there from 1 p.m. till midnight, and my wife hates it. But millennials don't do that. Like they literally watch bite-sized pieces of content. They want to experience it in different ways. They want to own the content, which Web3 now can allow us to do. They want to influence the content. They want personalized content, and they want to play the content. So we saw that opportunity to help leagues and IPs, broadcasters, teams around the world from a B2B technology standpoint, and launch games for them, fantasy games, predictor games, other types of games that help them better engage that audience.
Oh, that's amazing.
Incredible. Matt, that's really incredible. So why don't you talk to us about the moment where you realized you really had something with your business model? Maybe it was your first client that you guys got in. When did you realize that you just hit something?
Yeah, I realized when it was actually during COVID, and actually taking a couple of steps back. We started off actually as a B2C business. So we had our own predictor game on the App Store. Okay. We had tens of thousands of people playing. We're just starting to monetize. We're on a bit of a roll there. Then COVID hit, and I remember watching an NBA game which was the moment for me where sports paused. And I forget who it was. Rudy Gobert like sneezed over at the press conference or something like that. And sports kind of just stopped at that moment, and our app just went to zero. No one was playing it. There were no games to play. There was nothing to predict. We had little money in the bank, and at that point, we had no choice but to try and sell a white label and just say, "Hey, we have an app. Let's try and go and like get someone to have us build something." And the thing that was still happening at that point was reality TV. It was still on, and people were watching it. And we went to NBC Universal and said, "Hey, let us build a predictor game for the Real Housewives." And they paid us. They paid us, I think it was $60,000 at the time. And I just thought, oh, wow, that was very transactional. It wasn't that transactional, but it was fairly quickly. We had money in the bank. We were building our first white label. And we sold another one and another one and another one. And at that point, we decided, let's go all in on B2B. And that was the moment where, we kind of found our sweet spot in our lane. And, it was the best decision we ever made through the pressure cooker of a COVID type scenario where sports kind of came to a grinding halt. We ended up making one of the best decisions we've ever made.
What did they hope to achieve, and what metrics did you find that might have been a surprise for you with the Real Housewives experience?
Different partners want to achieve different things. First is obviously revenue. Second, engagement, people tuning in, people watching, especially for that millennial and Gen Z audience. But, it actually didn't surprise me, the reality TV world. If you look at Bachelor Nation or these Real Housewives audiences, they're actually just as engaged as an NFL fan. They're playing fantasy in usually unsophisticated ways. They're in Reddit channels, WhatsApp groups. They should be in the environment of the content owner, so that the content owner can be capitalizing on that and creating a great experience. So it was just really exciting to work with a big brand like that, which helped us then work with, since then, the WNBA, various other cricket in India. We're working with Karate Combat now, which is a big martial arts league. So we've worked with various different organizations. Our product suite is different now than what it was back then. We've gone more into the Web3 space and really pioneering the future or the next generation of fantasy sports, leveraging Web3. But it was really fun working with those first initial white label partners, because that was the stepping stone to who and where we are today.
That's a great segue into understanding some of the Web3 technologies you're looking to achieve or to build into this. But I'll just say with the combat karate, I saw a couple YouTube shorts and I was really excited about watching that. I saw Bas Rutten on there. He's a big fan of his and GSP. So great ambassadors that you brought into that one. But talk to us a little bit about the technologies that you're using in Web3. What were the decision-making rationale behind that, and what technologies were you looking to adopt?
Yeah, so let's talk about, first and foremost, like, what is our platform today? And
yeah, let's do it.
Our flagship platform right now always starts with a playable NFT. So we're minting playable versions of athletes, a playable digital fighter, a playable digital footballer, a playable digital horse, a playable digital jockey, whatever that sports subject might be. That's what we're able to sell, essentially. Notice that we're not calling them NFTs to the everyday fan, because they don't want to know that it's an NFT. They don't care. They just want to know that they can own it and it's theirs, and they can use it in games. So it always starts with playable digital fighters for Karate Combat. Then you can use that playable digital fighter in different games. There's a live fantasy game, so when your fighter lands a punch or a kick or a takedown in the pit, you earn rewards outside of the pit. Then we also have a card battle game. So when the event isn't actually happening, you and I can go head to head in a Pokemon style card battle game.
Oh, very cool.
Engage 24/7. This is our platform. Label NFTs, then with the games that you can use them in, and that's what we do today. We're no longer just doing a basic predictor or a Web 2 only fantasy game. We're really focusing on this platform, which we're calling the Play Next platform, which enables us to generate serious revenue off the bat with these playable digital fighters or whatever the sports subject might be, and generate revenue for our partners, and then create this gaming ecosystem around them.
Man, that's really interesting opportunity that you guys have seemed to kind of double down on and capture. And going back to your earlier like reality TV concept or engagement, these are channels, these are mediums, these are media that have by nature organic communities already built around them by their loyal user bases, right? And it is a significant opportunity to acquire them as potential customers for products that you can use to better engage them with your brand. And that fills the whole ethos of Web3 communities. And so it almost seems like your platform is creating the first on-ramps to take a brand and actually foster a much more utility-based community outside of just being a viewer of the content.
Exactly. Yeah. And it really is a seamless and easy way for these fans to engage in a way that drives engagement and revenue for the IP owner as well. But what's most important is that, it is really seamless and easy to engage. So, Web2 fans can come on, they can buy a playable digital collectible using their credit card. We'll create a wallet for them. We won't even call it a wallet. It will be a locker or a wardrobe or a garage or whatever is relevant to. We're kind of taking the Reddit model, and they have the vault, not a wallet. So that whole experience, they don't even know that they're touching the blockchain. If they want to take that to another external wallet and take it somewhere else, of course they can do it, and Web3 savvy fans will. But, I like to say my parents or even my grandparents will be able to buy a playable digital fighter, playing these games, earn rewards, own a piece of the actual athletes, and, they don't even know that they're touching the blockchain.
Yeah, and your now that you're B2B, your acquisition success is a lot different, right? B2C is all based off of the consumer rate of adoption of your playable assets, so to speak. But now from a B2B perspective, it is convincing the brands that your platform, the PlayNext platform, can actually come in and embolden their brand experience. How do you find yourself kind of going through the sales cycle, the sales motion, when you're engaging with a lot of these brands that aren't really used to these novel new concepts within gaming? Do you find yourself having to spend a lot of time educating these executives? Do they get it? Do they not get it? Do they see the vision? Do you have to convince and persuade them to see the vision?
Yeah, I think the key here is that we walk into the room and we tell them, first and foremost, we're building the next generation of fantasy sports, and this is how we're doing it. By the way, we're leveraging Web3, but we're not a Web3 company. We're a games company, and we believe that this is the best way to empower fans to play fantasy. It's leveraging Web3 and giving them ownership. But first and foremost, we're building the next generation of fantasy sports, and I think that's important because, they're turned off by different things that have happened in the market. And that's how we should be pitching it anyway. For example, I think Web3 has a branding problem. We're leading with the technology. If we're thinking Web2, when you download an app or go to a website, do they stop you first and foremost and say, hey, by the way, we're using AWS or Google Cloud? No, because we don't care. That would be weird. But for some reason, Web3 is leading with NFTs, Web3 blockchain. But the everyday consumer doesn't need or want to know that, nor do the people that are actually buying the assets and playing. We're leading with the benefits, the ownership, and the rewards that the blockchain can provide. And when we lead with that, with the IP owners, it helps. It's definitely much better than kind of leading with Web3 and blockchain.
Yeah, fostering a great experience where the customer doesn't even know the technology that they're engaging with. That's really smart. And so you probably don't have all these different steps that a user or a potential player has to interact. Like, do they have to set up wallets? Do they have to set up?
No.
Like, what does the customer onboarding experience look like for PlayNext? That would be really interesting to understand.
Yeah, so literally anyone can go to right now karateka.io. That's where the karate combat example lives, and you will be able to first of all log in with Google or Apple. One-click social sign-in. When you do that, we've automatically created a wallet for you at that point. You'll see it in the corner of the window, and that will be called a locker. It won't be called a wallet. Then if you want to go purchase a playable digital fighter of the actual karate combat fighters, you'll go through and using MoonPay, you'll pay with your credit card. It'll take about 30, 60 seconds, and you'll go back to your inventory, and they'll be. Your karateka fighters will be there. Then when the games roll out later in July or August, you'll be able to go to the fantasy game before the event with your inventory, choose your fighters that will be in your lineup for that evening, gear it up, add different things to it like pants and weapons and whatnot that you've also acquired, and that'll give it an influence and impact in the game. Then watch the game right there watch the actual fight right there from the game, and see yourself go up and down leaderboards based on what's happening in the pit. So that's a very Web2 friendly experience. The difference and what Web3 provides is that you own that asset and you own that fighter. It's yours. Who knows how you'll be able to leverage and use that in the future, maybe even through experiences that GameOn isn't even powering or providing. Maybe the league builds different experiences where you can show that off. So that the difference is the ownership and the rewards that Web3 and blockchain provides.
Matt, that's absolutely brilliant. I'm really glad to hear all this. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about your marketplace? As I understand, you guys have that if users are trying to interact and engage and trade amongst themselves.
Yeah, that's just another layer will be built into Karateka and any other partner we launch with. You'll be able to buy, trade, and sell right there from within the platform. If you want to take it to somewhere like OpenSea or a third party, you can do that as well. For the Web3 savvy folks, we don't want to take hostage of that asset because that would be against Web3. But if you want to just seamlessly trade and buy and sell within the platform, we provide that as well.
It's true ownership, my friend. I like it.
Well, an interoperability for the future, right? Like, what if Karateka has a metaverse, for example? They choose to now you could potentially leverage that fighter in a social engagement in a metaverse platform or something, or mobile app or what have you, or even if it, as an NFT, maybe there's some utility it unlocks. You've earned, and that's really interesting, right? Think of the hours that people invest in sports and the assets that they acquire, right? Like in traditional platforms, maybe it's skins for different weapons on my character. Maybe it's different costumes or gear or attire. And eventually, I get to the point where I've invested 90, 120 hours and I have this valuable asset, but no one else sees the value in that asset until I potentially, have a way to go and exchange that value. It sounds like you've now created that on-ramp to exchange that value. Yeah,
and who knows, what platforms will be made available to show off your fighters or your collectibles. When we collected trading cards, they were put into like slips in books, and they lived, somewhere in a living room. There's going to be a social media platform or like some type of other platform to allow you to show that off digitally one day. We even just say, over the next year or two, GameOn works with the NFL to do playable digital footballers and an Indian cricket league to do playable digital cricketers. Maybe there's a way to use your karate fighter as a proxy in the NFL game, that we allow you to do. So like there's so many different ways that we and other people can build upon and give you utility for your playable collectibles.
I love it. Do you guys do any community building in terms of can these users that have these fighters interact with one another? Do you foster a lot of that? Because that's potentially a very strong maybe customer retention strategy for a lot of these brands, right? I've invested the time in these characters and maybe I've hit God mode status or God mode level, and now I want to go and interact with the other God mode level players or customers in the ecosystem. Have you guys seen any success from social community engagement with your projects?
Yeah, with the partners that we're working with, we try to inject ourselves directly into their community. So Karate Combat has millions of social media followers, and I think they're nearing about 20,000 in their Discord now. So we're hosting a watch party for this weekend's event in there and promoting Karateka. giving away karatekas and doing some fun things there. When we work with bigger leagues, it has to come with that community. We don't want to be building a community from scratch. We want to tap into this Web2 fan crazy audiences that want to come and play these games and onboard them to Web3 in a way that they don't even realize they're tapping into it. So yeah, Karate Combat has about 12 million people watching their events every month, a few million on socials, and we're tapping right into that to grow the karateka community directly, which means we don't have to spend a lot of money ourselves or be like a B2C company, because we're really leveraging the audience that already exists.
And then are you guys designing the characters or the assets themselves, or do these brands have the ability to leverage their existing digital assets or marketing assets that they've already spent, quite a bit of money and probably years of development on their own?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, the first thing we ask when we work with these guys is like, give us everything you have and let us see what's available. And we can try and use those assets. We could create, playable collectibles that are, like traditional player cards, and use actual photos if we wanted to. With Karate Combat specifically, how they differentiate first and foremost is behind the pit where they fight, they have an Unreal Engine built background that's virtual. So if you're watching it on the stream, it's a very Street Fighter type vibe. It looks and feels like a game, but it's real. It's real fighting. Yeah. So for that reason, the artwork that we've created for the Karateka project is pixel art. So it taps into that Street Fighter type vibe. It's very cool.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
It looks and feels like the fighters, but we hired a pixel artist to create those assets. So it's really cool. It's turned out really nicely. And then what we do to dive into a little bit more of like the artist creation, how we came up with it. So we have a minting engine that the artist actually creates all of the different types of assets for the NFT. So there's the face, which is different for every fighter, but then the stance is the same. There might be like 10 different types of tops, like with different colors. There might be 5 different backgrounds. There might be different weapons that they're holding. And then we run it into the programmatic minting engine, and it will just spit out, 100, 200, 300 different unique NFTs for that fighter. So it's really because if we created 10,000, say, NFTs one by one, or it'll take a very long time. Creating the assets is seamless with the minting engine. We just have the artist design each individual different asset. It'll be interesting one time, maybe on a follow-up, we'll do an actual demo of the platform and have our product team join. It's really cool.
Oh, that would be awesome. And maybe we can actually interact, and maybe if we get to the point where the fighters are deployed, we can actually see them accrue some stats during exactly. or see how they're impacted by live play. Because I think that would be really interesting, right? Yeah, I'm just thinking fantasy baseball, let's say I have a shortstop on my team and I have his playable NFT, so to speak. And, let's say he went, 2 for 5 at bat, home run, blah, blah, blah. Maybe his real-time stats also bring value to powering up my NFT. That's cool, right? That's awesome. And now you're starting to link real world application direct to the gaming asset, which is a current gap. There's no one, at least not that I know of. Maybe you might be aware of, maybe not, but there's no one doing that today.
Yeah, we're the kind of first ones to be doing this. Another way we like to kind of create an analogy is that we're kind of somewhat similar to a SoRare or a Rainmakers, but we're B2B driven. So, we don't have a B2C platform. We're going and creating the Karate Combat fantasy game, leveraging Web3. Next up, I can't speak to any yet, but after Karate Combat will be a major league that we're at very end discussions with. That's what we're going after next. We think Karate Combat, just through the Karateka sales, is going to do about $1 million in sales. But think of Karate Combat as our crypto kitties. And the major league is going to be our Top Shot. So we're looking for our Top Shot moment right now. And we're excited to kind of hopefully get there by the end of the year.
So what's like surprised you? You embarked on this playable NFT road. You shifted from a B2B or from a B2C to a B2B experience. Were there any surprises as you were in your guys' growth that caught you off by surprise you were not expecting? Maybe it's consumer behavior, maybe it's brand behavior, maybe it's what you thought could be done and couldn't be done with a certain Web3 capabilities. I think that's an interesting topic that not a lot of people comment on.
Yeah, I think so. This really stems from me coming from the sports business world and working in that world. And one thing that's kind of has annoyed me in that space and how they've treated Web3 is that they're selling these teams and leagues are selling NFTs as a whole sponsorship category and just blocking it off. So they're going, like, for example, and they see it as a cash grab. So a lot of these big leagues would do 10, 20, $100 million deals with an FTX or some other company, and they would say no one else can do NFTs, which doesn't make sense to me. You can't block off a whole technology and say no one else can do it, because NFTs and blockchain for a team or a league might be the right technology for ticketing, for merchandise, for games, for collectibles, for moments. They're all different products, and one partner isn't going to be the right technology partner for all of them. So it's annoyed me over the last couple of years to see teams and leagues just essentially taking cash, and it's cash grab moments for them, blocking off an entire category for one solution or one partner. That doesn't make sense to me, but we're starting to see a shift, which I'm glad to see. We're starting to see a product first mindset for each of those different categories. And we're the games people, but we're not the ticketing people, right? So, I wouldn't want someone to give us exclusive rights to NFTs, because NFTs might be the right thing for tickets as well. So that's kind of been frustrating over the last couple of years and surprised me a little bit, but I'm definitely starting to see a shift now and starting to see the market kind of correct itself a little bit, I think.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that, Matt. We are mindful that our audience is, 1,400 CEOs, senior executives across industries. In addition to anyone who's watching us across YouTube, Spotify, or any of those platforms. What learnings have you gained or can take away that you believe would be imperative for another industry or another company in a various industry to sort of bring on into some of their strategies if they're looking to sort of move into this space?
It's something we've already touched on already, but really viewing Web3 and NFTs and blockchain really as a solution that doesn't need to be, thrown in the face of consumers, because it's just too hard for them to understand. So if we focus on the benefits and the rewards and the ownership that fans can experience, be it in games, be it in whatever other vertical or category, focus on the benefits that you're going to give the consumer and lead with that. And the acronym NFT is probably the worst thing that's happened to NFTs. Everyone's thrown off by it now. Like, there's knee-jerk reaction to it. They won't want to talk to you. Like, they won't even want to learn about your business if you start with that. Especially now when it's the down period. But there's no denying that the technology itself can solve so many different problems across sports, across business, across many other verticals. So I would encourage everyone who's either thinking about diving into it, like, think of the benefits first, think of what we want to achieve first and foremost, be it giving fans ownership of something, giving them the option to vote or have an influence in something. I don't know what the different businesses that everyone's running, but really hone in and focus on the benefits and problems that can be solved, rather than leading with the acronyms and the buzzwords first and foremost.
I love that. Let's take ticket NFTs, for example. Everyone, we just released this as an NFT and it's a ticket. Man, customers don't care. It's a ticket. They just want to use it to go and access the event, right? But now, from a marketing perspective, even though it's being powered by an NFT, now that ticket isn't used as a one-off instance. It's a breathable living asset because it's on chain, and it can be repurposed or utilized to unlock following or future utility because now that asset is living immutably on chain. It's not changing, it's not touching. If you transfer it, that's an ability that you would highlight for an NFT ticket that you can't do with a normal ticket. And so it's now you have a ticket, and maybe Karateka, you buy these tickets, and now these tickets, you have this ticket in your locker, and 5 months down the road, if you still have this ticket in your locker, thank you. You now have access to this limited drop of, exclusive content or exclusive, that marketing, that public narrative needs to change. And I love that you said that, because a lot of brands and the way they're thinking about the technology, they're pigeonholing themselves. They're doing themselves a disservice because they're only using it and seeing it with one real use case. They're not seeing the forest for the trees, so to speak. Where do you have any examples? Maybe if you can speak, maybe confidentially or what, but where you've seen some brands start to experiment with these NFTs with multiple uses of utility, not just what they initially wanted to go to market with, but now they're experimenting with it to be, not only a ticket, but a playable asset, and not only a playable asset, but maybe a tool of social engagement. Have you seen anything novel occurring there within your clients?
This isn't one of our clients, and not even an area that we're working in. But I think that one of the lowest hanging pieces of fruit for Web3 will be loyalty and rewards. Starbucks is one that's taken a deep dive into it and doing it just in a simple and smart way. They're leveling up their standard loyalty and reward system and providing more leverage and utility for their fans who drink coffee every day, just by leveraging the power of Web3. So I think that's one simple use case, and I think we're going to see more and more brands. I think I heard about like Starburst doing something similar in loyalty and rewards, and I think that's a no-brainer. Like every brand, if they're thinking of where do I start with NFTs, make it loyalty and rewards. If you're a consumer product, it's a no-brainer. That's probably the most obvious use case that I think we're going to see a lot of over the next 12, 24 months.
In Starbucks, you hit the nail on the head there. They're just a coffee company, but now within the industry, they've arguably got the strongest loyalty rewards program across any industry vertical, whether it's CPG, retail, what have you. Starbucks' loyalty program is considered the gold standard of what a well-defined strategic program looks like. And they didn't even lead with NFTs, right? They led with, this is a beta rollout of our next level loyalty program. And I've had the opportunity to participate in the beta, the Odyssey program, and it's really intuitive. Because of NFTs, they've been able to, hey, now customers or fans, you can go in and fulfill some challenges, go do some quizzes with coffee, facts. And as you earn those or you complete those or earn those, you might be distributed in an NFT. And then down the road, that NFT, because you went and fulfilled some of these challenges, it's a gamification of the loyalty program. And I don't think most brands have even thought of that. And they have a very, at least it seems on the surface, holistic view to the space of where the power of the technology can take them. That's even more amplified in the sporting industry, right? When you think about how integral sports are to everyone's everyday lives, there's allegiances, there's generational fandom, there's countrywide fandom, right? And a lot of people identify very much in their day-to-day lives by what's their favorite sports team. I think when you and I met, one of the first thing that we talked about in New York was, what are your favorite teams? You being in Miami, Miami Heat, me being Milwaukee Bucks, right? And we won't talk about that because that's a sore subject right now.
Gotta give the Heat a shout out at the moment. Hopefully by the time this goes live, they're in the middle of a finals championship run. But yeah, I mean, another good example that you just made me think of is Karate Combat that we've spoken about already a few times, stepping away from what we're doing for them, them as a league themselves have just launched a token this week. They're not selling the token. They're not profiting from it. They're using it as a tool to give their fans ownership in the league. This is quite radical. No other major league or traditional league wants to do this, or they're scared to do this. But Karate Combat have said, you know what, we're going to give the league away to our fans via this token. How do you earn it? You could have signed up for the airdrop, the initial airdrop, but then what you do is you actually go into their app called Up Only Gaming. You pick who will win in the fights when the fights are on, and if you get it right, you win more tokens. That's the first use case. That's if you engage with their product, you can't lose any tokens. You're not betting. You're not betting anything. That's why it's called Up Only Gaming. But you continue to accrue these tokens that actually represent true ownership in the league. They're the first league to do it, and it's just really scratching the surface. Like, they'll reward fans in other ways, and that ownership will be able to be actioned in different ways. But they're really just scratching the surface with this original token launch, and they just raised $18 million, led by Bitcraft. So they're doing just a lot of great stuff, and I encourage everyone to go and check them out. Karate.com. And go and see what they're doing. That's a really great use case, I think, in the sports world. They're going all in, but they're doing it in a very simple way that kind of directly gives back to the fans.
That's really incredible. I'm going to definitely take a look at this, because I think that's an exciting test case for the distribution of ownership and fractionalization.
Yeah, I'm sure a lot of other league executives are keeping an eye on this.
No, that's awesome. I mean, just think about that. Like, Miami Heat, for example, we want to carve off 3% ownership to our most loyal fans. And to do that, you have to purchase these NFTs, and these NFTs can then, eventually, as you accrue more tokens, you are rewarded, right? For your basically loyalty to the team. And that loyalty then can be, maybe you get to meet your favorite player. Maybe you get to, sit on floor, courtside seats, right? Something of that nature. Maybe I own the Jimmy Butler playable NFT, and Jimmy Buckets gets 50 points in a game, and all of the Jimmy Buckets playable NFT owners now get rewarded with, with a partner for Miami Heat, maybe a 25% discount on merch, something of that. There's so many ways that brands, especially sporting brands, can capitalize on this. But to your earlier point, they're only viewing it as the fulfillment of one specific use case, and I think that is also just a testament to how early we are in this space, right? Most people don't even know. You talk to any normal fan and you ask them what an NFT is, and they're going to be like, "We don't care," they're just pictures, right?
Yeah.
But then you talk about like, "Hey, this is my digital asset of my ownership of this team, or this is my asset in my locker, and this is all of the benefits I get with it." And then all of a sudden, now you kind of create that hype, that FOMO to go and acquire more of these, amongst whether your leagues or your teams or what have you.
And guys like us who grew up sports fans, the dream that's probably never attainable is to own a team or a league, right? And so it's also to that ego that we all wish we could do. Now with karate, you can. Another good example is a company called Silks. It's run by a guy called Dan. He's here in Florida.
We know Silks very well.
Dan's great. One of the smartest product minds in our space, but also one of the good guys as well. Very, very nice guy who's been around the block a few times. And Silks is awesome, right? Like, every time a racehorse is born or becomes a racehorse, there's a digital twin that you can buy. And every time that horse wins in real life, you get rewarded. Ultimately, they want to get to a point where it's 1-for-1, where the actual owners in the real world are earning the same amount as the owner of that digital twin in the metaverse, so to speak, or just the digital world. Like, that's pretty awesome. I come from a country in Australia where, I've seen people bet on sports, every day. You go to a bar and there's people betting on horses. There's no way in their entire, dreams, lives, that they would ever think they could own a horse. Now with Silks, they can. So like that's another great example, and Dan and the team there are now doing deals with like the racing organizations because they want to be a part of it, and they truly are bringing this digital, physical world together where we can all own racehorses for a fraction of the cost. It's really exciting.
Yeah, and probably one of the biggest things that Silks has achieved that most of these Web3 NFT projects haven't is they've acquired an older customer base. You could say maybe some of that is, equatable to the actual industry, horse racing and all that stuff. I don't know how appealing that is to Gen Z or younger millennials, but the average owner of those Silks horses are older millennials. They're older, 40 plus years old, 35 plus years old. Whereas most of these major leagues, Top Shots, what have you, they're solely focused on that Gen Z younger millennial demographic. And so it shows that, hey, it's a great use case to show that you can enjoy this technology and you can deploy these assets for any age group if you do it properly. And that's the big thing. When you engage with Silks, you have no idea that these are NFTs. It is, hey, I want to, bet on this horse race. I want to own this baby horse that was just born. I want to engage with other horse owners, and Naira and all of these racing leagues have seen the power of that, and now they've bolted on Silks as a form of social engagement for their leagues, and that's really powerful. That is so when you think about where the future is going, at least in the next couple of years, especially with these playable NFTs or these sports leagues, what are some trends that you're starting to notice? What are some things that that the leagues are starting to take notice that might not be pretty apparent to those of us that are just laymen?
I think I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but to double click on that is that I think we're seeing teams and leagues move away from the cash grab moment and now into like a product first moment. What will enhance engagement for our fans? What will inherently add more value to our fans? How can we do deals with multiple Web3 enabled technology companies to solve this, and this? And we're seeing it right at the top leagues now, who, a year or two ago, we would have never been able to compete with tens of millions of dollars of licenses that were being thrown at them, to now it's like, hey, let's have a conversation about product first and foremost. So it's really exciting and comforting now to be having those conversations.
Do you think it's a push or a pull demand, Matt? Do you think that the generational trend moving towards digitized experiences are really forcing the companies to do it, or are they looking at this as potentially this is the time to test now, regardless, and we're anticipating the demand coming on later in the coming years?
Yeah, I think it's driven by the existential problem that the major leagues are experiencing, is that millennials and Gen Z aren't watching. I think one of my close mentors and friends, and he was the former chairman of GameOn, a guy called Jay Moses. He was one of the original Grand Theft Auto creators, and then he's still on the board of Take-Two today. So he always reminds me that his teenage children literally don't know how to turn on NBC, ABC, or any free-to-air television. They don't know. Like, that's kind of wild to think about. Wow. Like, they don't know how to get the game on the TV because that's not how they watch it. They'll watch on TikTok, or they'll watch the shorts. That they don't want or care for a full game. And the NBA, the NFL, the MLB, they're all shit scared of that. Like, it's a big problem. So I think that's driving more of a pull that we're starting to see over the next year or so. I think we're going to see more and more of that because they have to. They have no choice, and this is a way to engage and provide ownership and allow fans to influence, own, and play the content. So that's what's, I think, driving the pull.
Do you think being a part of the sports experience in a much deeper level also brings an emotional connection with unique fighters or sports players or figures as well. You can make an argument that you're just observing, you'll buy a jersey, but perhaps in the experience that you're offering now, you almost feel as though you're a part of the individual's journey as well. So do you think there's an emotional tie that just pulls in fans even deeper?
Yeah, I think so. I think it provides almost like an opportunity of drawing a rookie card. And if you have that rookie card and that player
Sure.
becomes an
Yeah.
all-star, you're like, you're
Mm-hmm.
part of that journey. And yeah, there might be monetary value in that as well. But really, you pulled, when he was someone who's fighting in karate combat, for example, if the league goes on to become 10 times the size it is in a couple of years, or that fighter goes and becomes a UFC champion or whatever path it might be, you're more connected to that than if you didn't experience the game.
That's incredible.
Man, and think about that for a second. As a fan, the ultimate sporting experience I could ever achieve is the moment I ever interact with my favorite player, or attend an actual maybe Super Bowl or World Series or what have you, UFC championship pay-per-view event or what have you, right? And now even these players individually, let's get away from the brands, but these players individually also have really unique opportunities to double down on their fan loyalty, right? And I don't think we've really seen any good use cases of players or athletes leveraging some of these Web3 NFTs or what have you to better engage with their fans. A lot of the ones that have been were quickly called out publicly as cash grabs. Certain players dropped NFTs. These NFTs didn't do anything. We saw this with music and musicians. They dropped these music NFTs and there was no real world utility. It was just go and buy this, and at that time it was maybe you can sell this on the secondary market on a open sea and it might appreciate, but really ultimately, and this is where like the memes come, is you're buying just a picture, right?
Mm-hmm.
But really, and to your earlier points, these could be mechanisms leveraged to better embolden the fan experience and the fan engagement, and could drive maybe like let's say fringe star players into the spotlight because of the success of there are what in sports they're called like the people's champions, right? The athletes that the general public loves. They might not be the top athletes in the industry, but the overall general public just loves them, right? And fans would rally if they could better engage. For me, for example, if I owned a Giannis playable NFT and I became a Giannis fan, top contributor or something of that nature. Right now, the only way we can do that is on social media, right? And the hope is maybe one day Giannis follows me on Instagram, or maybe one day Giannis likes my comment. But maybe I've been following Giannis since he's been drafted, and then all of a sudden, they see that, oh, I've owned this NFT for so long and it's been powered up, and eventually I get the point where, hey, you're a loyal Giannis supporter. Here's an opportunity to meet and greet. That opportunity could be done today. No one is just really strategized around that. It's not a technology gap. It's more of a strategy gap.
Yeah. It's not easy to do. It's not easy to get it right, and especially if you're not putting the time and effort and strategy into doing it. Even like, a clear example is Top Shot, which, absolute pioneer. Like they had a big impact on the space, but they've gone from about 300 million monthly volume to 3 million monthly volume in a space of 2 years. It's because there's nothing you can really do with them except collect them. Similarly, we've seen the autograph collection of IP, and these are some of the best athletes in the world. Tom Brady, Tony Hawk, Naomi Osaka. There's like Gronk. There's like 50 of them, and they haven't really created the right utility and benefits and experience. And I know they're trying to work it out, and I think they will. But as it stands right now, like they're trying to work through that problem. Like, how do we provide, even though we have world-class IP, like the best players they could ever get across different sports, they're trying to solve that problem now as well. Like, how do we provide these fans the right utility and value. And it's not an easy thing to solve. It's hard.
Yeah, I mean, see, going back to Giannis, I think, I don't know if anyone's done this, but could you imagine getting like a 3-4 day before a game behind the scenes of him training, just getting ready for the game and his mental, state and the things that he does, and then you just get it delivered, the day before the game or morning of, and then that's so much more of an investment that you have in Giannis's performance, and that's a huge emotional attachment to that player and to the experience. Matt, we're having a fabulous conversation, and I think you've given a lot of insights into the innovative experience of gaming. If anyone who is interested in finding out more about GameOn and getting involved in some of the projects that you have, what's the best way to reach out to you guys and to get involved?
I'll say, first of all, I always love having conversations like this. It doesn't always have to be recorded. So if anyone ever wants to have a chat and just talk about games, Web3, sports, you can always reach out to me, matt@gameon.app, A-P-P. But then also I'd love for you to all to go check out Karateka, which is the Karate Combat Playable Digital Fighters and Games that will be launched soon, karateka.io. Go check it out. Give us feedback. Tell us how it looks and feels, and the experience will be. It's live now. You can go and buy your karatekas, but then as the games roll out, would love everyone's feedback on that. And then we got to do this again soon, because we have a lot of stuff in the pipeline and more updates to share at a future date.
We're definitely excited about that.
Yeah, for sure. We'll get you onto our community fireside, and this is definitely, we've been, it seems like in the past couple of weeks, we've been having a lot of gaming studios and gaming publishers. So we might have an opportunity here to do a full panel, and we can talk about the industry as a whole from different perspectives. And so we'd love to have you on that episode as well.
Let's do it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time, Matt. And thank you again, Abe, for joining us. And
for sure.
Thank you again to all of our yWhales listeners and to those that are not yWhales listeners. We appreciate your time today. Take care.